Crossover Report here with our web series, Three Guys, One Mic. Paul Lamb, Nick Damiani, myself, Neil Doyle. Doing some conference NCAA basketball previews here for you. In this video, we're going to get into the Pac-12 conference. Always an interesting conference, some good teams. It seems like the last 5-6 years, it's been the Arizona Wildcats kind of leading it. Could be a little bit of a down year this year. They only have 3 top 25, which is not bad. I'm sure a lot of conferences would appreciate that. But Pac-12, UCLA kind of been down, and they've always been a powerhouse in the Pac-12. The last 5 years, they've struggled. So we're going to get into it, though. We have some different categories we're going to talk about. First one we'll get into is who we think is going to win this conference. So what are your guys' thoughts? Who wins the Pac-12 this year?
I'm going with a bit of an upset this year. I'm taking Cal over Arizona. I really like Ivan Rabb, and like I said in the last video, I really like Jaylen Brown a lot. I think he's one of the best players in college basketball. All props to Sean Miller in Arizona and what they've done. But I think Cal's got kind of a swagger about them this year. I think they're going to be able to play really well against Arizona, Utah, and those other teams in that conference. I think they're going to come out on top.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Paul with Cal. Just because Jaylen Brown's such a dynamic scorer, I feel like he can score from anywhere on the floor. I mean, he could be a lottery pick next year. That's how good this guy is. And he's going to join Tyrone Wallace in the backcourt. Well, last year Wallace was a first-team Pac-12 player. I mean, that's arguably the best 1-2 punch in the Pac-12 just in their backcourt alone. And then you talk about Ivan Rabb, very talented team all around. And I think they knock off Arizona and get Pac-12 title this year.
I'm going to go with the Wildcats again. I think they're just too tough every year. It seems like they just have a load of 8 or 9 guys on that roster, and guys that are always like there. Tarczewski seems like he's been there forever. He's going to man the front court. Gabe York, who's been a role player the last few years, he'll have his time to shine now as a starter, and I think he'll contribute. Then they got a transfer in Ryan Anderson who's going to light up scoring, and then they always bring in good freshmen. They're 2 freshmen this year. Ray Smith and Alonzo Trier, top 50 guys, are just going to help this team, and I think Arizona just has too many pieces again this year for teams to beat them in the Pac-12. So I'm going to go with the Wildcats. Let's get into then our dark horse team in the Pac-12, a team that could have a good year that's not expected to. I'll start us off with this one. I'm going to go with Oregon this year. They lost their leading scorer in Joe Young, who was up for Pac-12 Player of the Year last year. They lost him, but they returned a lot of key scorers. There are 2 other key scorers, Elgin Cook and Dylan Brooks, who were their top 3 scorers also last year. Bringing them back is going to be huge. And then they got a transfer from Villanova, Dylan Ennis, who didn't really get to play that much, but they got him, and I think he's going to be key at the guard position. And then they brought in a really good freshman and top 50 player in Tyler Dorsey, who I think if he has a really good year, and he should, and if he does, I think it's going to really help the Ducks, and they should be able to compete in the Pac-12, should be in the top 3 mix. And, should give maybe Arizona a little bit of a run if Dorsey's able to play well. So they're my dark horse.
I'm going to go with UCLA. They've been to back-to-back Sweet 16s. Not a lot of people remember that. They did lose Kevin Looney and their leading scorer, Norman Powell, last year. But they are returning 3 starters, Aaron Holiday, Prince Ali Alababa. And they're bringing back Bryce Alford, who shot 40% from 3 last year and scored 15 a game for them. So they got some talent, bring him back, and they can score and shoot the ball. And then they got Jonah Bolden, who's a sophomore. He didn't really play last year due to eligibility reasons, but he's a very versatile defender. And like I said in another video that you guys should all watch, if you can shoot, you have a chance late in the year. And they got shooters at an abundance.
Yeah, my team's actually going to be Utah. A lot of people are picking them, like in the 3rd or 4th spot in the conference, but I think they can do a lot better than that. I think they can do a lot better nationally, too. Last year, they had one of the best defenses in the NCAA, 8th in points allowed, 7th in field goal percentage allowed. And then offensively, they bring back Jacob Podol. A lot of people didn't think maybe he was going to come back this year, but I think they can contend for a Pac-12 championship. And then also, I think they can make it to Sweet 16, maybe even Elite 8 on the national level.
And then our last category, Player of the Year, who we think you guys wins Player of the Year in the Pac-12 this year.
Well, I have Cal winning conference championship, and I think the only way they win that is if Jaylen Brown plays like the Player of the Year in the Pac-12, which I think he will because he's such a good scorer and such a good player. I mean, he could be a top 5 pick next year. This kid has that much talent.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown is my Pac-12 Player of the Year, and he's my National Player of the Year. I think he's the best player in college basketball. Maybe behind Ben Simmons. I think he's better than Scale Labissiere. I think he does so much offensively and defensively. He's a can't miss talent. He's one of those guys you got to tune into at least one of his games this year. I think he's going to be unbelievably offensively, probably 20 points per game, and then also grabbing 7 boards and dishing 4 or 5 assists.
I'm going to go with the big man Jacob Poeltl out of Utah, returned for his sophomore season when a lot of people thought he would leave. He's such a big body at 7 foot. He's got a solid base. He's about 245, and he can run the floor well. I think you're going to see him really evolve in his offensive game this year. Sometimes with a little bit lackluster on the defensive end, but I think you're going to see him get even stronger, maybe even add on a little bit more weight, and then really show what he's able to do in the post. I think he's going to be hard for a lot of teams to handle, and I think if he's able to show that he has this offensive game with his body type, he could easily be a top 20 pick, I think, next year in the draft. So I'm going with him to be not a lot of people I think he's going to win Conference Player of the Year, but Poeltl, big year for the Utes. So that's our Pac-12 preview. Should be fun in the Pac-12, and we're going to keep it going. More conference previews on the way. So thanks for listening. Crossover Report. 3 guys, 1 mic. Nick Damiani, Paul Ware, and myself, Neil Doyle. We'll see you next time.
Coming at you from the Shy 708. We got 6 rings, Michael Jordan, great. Need to save the date, this a brand new debate. Talk teams that we love and talk teams that we hate.